Healing itself is the process of realizing and embodying self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, and eventually self-love. I truly believe our primary purpose in life is to learn how to give and receive love at the highest levels. You may disagree, but what other than love can we take with us after our final breath? Hello, my name is Dr. Michael Hofrath. Today I'd like to talk about my own healing journey. In telling my story, my intention is to help you, the viewer, gain understanding that all the experiences we go through in life, the good, the bad, and even the ugly, are in essence learning and healing experiences. Additionally, I hope to inspire viewers to pursue their own inner healing to access freedom and wholeness. What we have to understand is trauma is actually a teacher if we are just willing to expand our conception of internal wounding. Not only can we heal from trauma and adversity, but even more importantly, trauma and adverse life challenges are our best teachers and our best life coaches. It is never just about what happened. It's about what we take from what happened, the meaning we make, and what we learn from these adverse experiences. That is so important. Life, like healing journeys, are rarely linear. There are always numerous twists, turns, and complexities along the way. My healing journey was no different. In fact, my healing journey paralleled my path to becoming a somatic therapist and a shamanic soul healer. Like most of us, I endured my fair share of childhood trauma. It's a complex web of adverse internal programming, fear, chaos, and lots of confusion. I actually know what it feels like not to get my needs and wants met, not to feel safe in my body, what it feels like to endure physical and emotional abuse, and to not have my feelings validated. However, in retrospect, I see how my own internal wounding and life adversity were all part of my healing journey, and in truth, part of a bigger plan to lead and guide me into my life's purpose and calling. In my life, all the internal wounding and life adversity served to guide me to my purpose and to my calling. However, there are two important functions I really wanted to highlight. These events served as my initiation into trusting my intuition implicitly and remembering who I am. They helped me move into alignment with my true self, which led me to accept myself and my purpose. Along the way, I learned how to trust my clairvoyant abilities, intuitive gifts, and skills without question. Interestingly, in my youth, I always questioned my intuition. My intuition would affirm the path I was supposed to follow, but then or I should say more to the truth, my ego would respond, yeah, but I want that shiny thing over there. My intuition again would respond with, no, that is not the right direction. You don't want to go to that place. You'll end up in disappointment and frustration. Yet or again, my ego would reply, yeah, but I really want that shiny thing or person, whatever it is I wanted at the time. And so the battle between my heart and my ego would begin. And my ego would always win every single time. And as my intuition predicted, I would always end up disappointed, hurt, frustrated, and then I would lash out at myself for not being good enough or adequate enough or smart enough. It was a continual self-fulfilling prophecy of my internal programming that would have me sabotaging every area of my life, all because I couldn't get out of my own way. I always thought I knew what I wanted and what was best for me. That's how the ego actually holds us back from our true potential, to be honest with you. However, when I started to live through my heart and my intuition, everything started to change. Life became an adventure. I was actually able to follow through on things and finish what I started, which I never could do before. I began meeting people who I could connect with and who I could have deep, meaningful discussions with from a more heartfelt and authentic place versus just superficial discussions I was used to. There was also another important function trauma and life adversity did for me. It served as my apprenticeship into my vocation as a somatic, Jungian-based therapist and a shamanic soul healer. This apprenticeship led me to my passion, curiosity, and eventually to my lived experience with entheogens or psychedelics, which in turn led me to becoming a psychedelic assisted facilitator and integration specialist. So today, I actually teach the art of ceremonial facilitation and integration to other clinicians, psychologists, and healers. It's important to understand the most powerful healers have also typically experienced the most trauma and often experienced one or several near-death experiences, or NDEs as we call them, along with a lot of initiatory deaths and spiritual dismemberments. My path was no different at all. I have always been highly intuitive and clairvoyant, but like most people, I chose to turn away from my gifts and my true calling during my youth out of fear. What was I afraid of? I was afraid of being different. I wanted to fit in, be liked by others, and not be labeled different or weird. I look back on this period of my life and I laugh. Why did I want to be liked by everyone else so much? Why did I care so much what others thought about me? Well, once again, it was my ego telling me I needed to be liked by others. And that, quite frankly, was a lie. After each traumatic event and NDE, my intuitive gifts became stronger and clearer. Today I can access other worlds and travel through different dimensions. I conduct soul retrievals and do remote viewing. I can see and feel negative or dark energy in other people and perform emotional surgery or conduct extractions if needed. The caveat to becoming a powerful healer is that we first had to address and move through and resolve all of our deep-seated trauma. We have to work through all of our issues and merge with our shadow in order to be whole and to have integrity with ourselves and to become a clear channel. We can't just do a spiritual bypass. There are no shortcuts. We all have to do the heavy lifting, every one of us, if we want to be free. It's not comfortable, but it is necessary. So I'd like to talk a little bit about substance abuse. As would be expected as the offspring of two alcoholics, my mother and my father both, I too struggled with substance abuse for a good part of my life. In fact, alcohol addiction almost killed me on numerous occasions. Today, I have over 19 years sober. My in-depth experiential understanding with substance abuse and addiction serves me daily in my vocation and in my work with clients who suffer from all forms of substance abuse and addiction. Only an addict or alcoholic can truly understand another addict or alcoholic. What I learned was that my own personal struggle with substance abuse and my eventual sobriety actually became the catalyst for my work in the field of mental health and in substance abuse. Over the years, I worked with some of the most prominent mental health and substance abuse and recovery treatment centers in the country. I'd also like to talk about another event that happened in my life when I was a hostage in a foreign country. But let me start first by saying, don't listen to anyone who says you cannot heal from post-traumatic stress. They have no idea what they're talking about. I specialize in post-traumatic stress. I have personally moved through and healed from my own post-traumatic stress, not just once, but several times during my life. I've also worked with hundreds of combat veterans, law enforcement personnel, and civilians, and witnessed their healing. From an experiential and lived experience perspective, we can heal from post-traumatic stress and the associated trauma. In 2015, I ended up being a hostage in a foreign country. I was in my last year of graduate school for my doctoral degree. Not only that, but I had returned extremely sick. I had walking pneumonia and I had the NDM-1 superbug. The NDM-1 is a bacterial strain that is resistant to even the strongest antibiotics. There are very few antibiotics that can actually combat the NDM-1 bacterial gene, which makes it actually very life-threatening. I couldn't hold down food or water for months. I was effectively dying a very slow and painful death, both physiologically and psychologically. Modern medicine turned out to be worthless. Western doctors did not believe me when I told them I had the NDM-1 superbug, even after showing them all the clinical research studies. Instead, they misdiagnosed me. They attempted to pump my body full of useless pharmaceutical medications that actually made me worse. Western medicine is still quite primitive in many areas of healthcare, but especially in their understanding of antibiotic-resistant superbugs, and quite frankly, post-traumatic stress. They often treat the wrong problem with the wrong treatment. So, as a last resort, I turned inward. I have been training as a shamanic healer for several years. I was even told by several shamans that I had the potential to be a powerful shamanic healer. So, I put my healing abilities and my spirit team to the ultimate test. Show me how to heal myself, or I'll die. Interestingly, within a few short weeks, I felt better. And within a few months, I had completely healed. I was shown how to heal both my body and my mind. I tell you this because my own personal healing solidified my trust and confidence in my own healing abilities and in spirit. Moreover, this experience launched me into the next phase of my career, which was actually working with combat veterans and law enforcement personnel suffering from post-traumatic stress. This led to my developing and co-authoring a very highly successful post-traumatic stress program for combat veterans. Once again, an adverse life experience and trauma were converted into a vocational opportunity to help others heal. If I hadn't been a hostage in a foreign country, I highly doubt I would be the trauma therapist and shamanic soul healer that I am today. Now, you would think my higher power and the universe, source, our creator, would have been satisfied with all these life-threatening issues I was subject to or overcame. But that wasn't to be the case. Several years later, I remember huddling in the kitchen, praying with an elderly neighbor and my German Shepherd puppy. The 2018 Malibu Woolsey fire had engulfed my house in flames. The house rocked and shuddered like it was being hit by rocket projectiles. I really thought this was the end, and I actually prepared to perish in the flames. It was just a matter of time before one of the panoramic windows cracked from the excessive heat and the fire engulfed us. And I knew this. Either that or we would suffocate. We kept gasping for oxygen. There just wasn't any there. It was almost impossible to breathe anything but smoke. But then, all of a sudden, the wind shifted away from my house, and the flames moved over us, leaving the house intact. I remember this moment like it was yesterday. It was surreal, like time and space had been suspended by some unseen force. This pause gave us just enough time to make a mad dash for my car, which was actually the only vehicle not on fire at the time. For some reason, I'd parked my car against the garage. Miraculously, the car started amidst all the smoke, and we attempted our daring escape from sure death. But then we embarked on another horrifying adventure, as I had to drive straight into a wall of flames to escape. I remember driving over several downed power lines, rocks, boulders, and tree branches. I couldn't see more than a few feet in front of me the whole time. I knew if the car stalled, we were dead. So I just kept driving. The entire time I was asking Spirit to guide us to safety. What seemed like an eternity ended up with my totaled car limping past the police roadblock barriers to safety. Our survival was literally a miracle, plain and simple. I can't believe any other reason why we survived. There is no other logical explanation. However, once again, I found myself dealing with post-traumatic stress. But this time I knew how to move through the trauma, and I healed from this event in just a few short months. Once again, this is the important part of this story. The learning I received from this experience was profound. This disaster taught me to let go of all attachment to material objects, and that all that mattered was love, family, and friends. I learned that spirit, source, or God is very real, and that miracles can and do happen every single day. We rarely hear about these miracles because the news media focuses almost exclusively on fear-inducing dark stories and death. Because unfortunately, these topics draw higher ratings. Disturbingly, this says a lot about our societal values today. Our perception of events determines the meaning we make from them. We can focus on the negative consequences, or we can instead search for what we were supposed to learn from the event. We can shift our perspective of adverse past experiences and trauma, move through trauma, change the story, and move into clarity and understanding. From here, we can move into self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, and eventually self-love. The meaning we make from adversity, the stories we attach to them, and what we take away from traumatic events is everything. How we process traumatic events and experiences is directly proportional to whether we move through them or not. The alternative is to remain stuck in them and replay these horrible memories day in and day out. The lens we peer through either assists us in moving through and letting go, or not. We have free will and we have choice. We can take our life back. Trauma only has as much power as we give it. Adverse life events help us develop resilience, courage, and strength for future life challenges. I also learned that nothing in life occurs by happenstance or coincidence. Everything happens the way it is supposed to happen, in exactly the way it's supposed to happen, and that there is always a learning that we can take from adverse life experiences. The truth is only revealed upon reflection. Every experience we go through, whether positive or negative, are powerful teachers if we choose to view them as such. Choosing to move through past adverse memories and traumatic events opens the door to inner courage, strength, and resilience. We can choose to view the past from a disempowered, victim-based mentality, or we can choose to view the past as just more information, choose to move past the experience, let go of our attachment to it, and become water, which is highly empowering. Water just flows. There's no resistance. What we resist will persist. Every time we push back against resistance, resistance pushes back even harder. But water, well, water just flows. Water doesn't care if there are boulders or logs in its path, or even if there is no path forward. Water just keeps flowing. Water moves through, over, under, and around obstacles. If there is no path, water will eventually make its own path. We need to learn to become water and just keep flowing. Humans are a meaning-making species. We can choose to learn from the past, or we can choose to remain stuck in it. We can choose to move through past trauma and into a place of acceptance of what is. This doesn't mean we're happy about the experience. It just means we move into acceptance of what is and focus on what we want to happen in our life. We can choose to hold on to the past and allow it to infiltrate our present or our future, which is disempowerment. Living in fear, shame, guilt, anger, bitterness, or feeling less than, unworthy, unlovable, stuck, or lost is not really living at all. In fact, it's barely surviving. We must find meaning in our lived experiences. Otherwise, our soul dies a slow death. You know, Nietzsche stated, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." I believe adversity and challenges are an integral component of our life's journey. We need sadness, despair, and defeat as a barometer for joy, harmony, and happiness. Meaning-making from trauma and adverse life experiences is how we develop strength, perseverance, resilience. This is how we learn to lead purposeful, fulfilling, meaningful, and joy-filled lives. Healing is an alchemical process of moving through from one stage to another. We move from victimhood into survivorship, and then from survivorship into thriving. Healing itself is the process of realizing and embodying self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, and eventually self-love. I truly believe our primary purpose in life is to learn how to give and receive love at the highest levels. You may disagree, but what other than love can we take with us after our final breath? Thank you for watching today. I'm Dr. Michael Hofrath. I look forward to being of service to you in your quest for freedom and wholeness.